Hey everyone, I want to start off by saying no one really ever plans on making banana bread, or at least I don't. If you're like me, you probably buy a bunch of bananas for yourself or your family, and then a week or two later, you're left with these overripe, about to be thrown out, dear God, why did I buy so many? What do I do? And now I'm throwing them in the freezer for later. And one day, you hope to make banana bread. Well, that day is today. And I don't want you to have to worry about what the best recipe out there is, because I'm gonna share with you 3 things that you can do to any recipe to make sure your banana bread is the best ever. I'm sure if you're like me, you've Googled the best banana bread recipe ever and tried a few, and they are all pretty good recipes, some way more complex than they should be. But anyway, I even found a recipe on this bag of flour and made it, and it's also pretty good. They add Greek yogurt. And you know what's funny? When I saw that recipe on this Target brand of flour, I actually wondered out loud, I bet this is a Martha Stewart recipe. And you know what? I was pretty darn close. She uses sour cream. So this video isn't about a recipe I found on a bag of flour. Here are 3 tips to transform any recipe into the best banana bread. Let's get started. Tip number 1, bananas. You already know to use overripe, black, soft bananas. The starch is converted into sugar. Great. Here's my tip. Use an extra banana. So many people told me their secret, and it was always that. For most recipes I read, it called for the equivalent of 3 bananas, and now you just need to add a 4th. Tip number 2. Adding a secondary source of fat will increase the flavor and moistness. You're gonna hear the word moist a lot, so buckle up. Some will use sour cream like Martha or Greek yogurt like on that package of flour. But here's my tip after making a lot of banana bread and experimenting with different options. Just add about 1/3 of a cup to 1/2 cup of full fat banana yogurt. I never found that sour cream or Greek yogurt adds any magical flavor complexity because it's tart, but full fat yogurt is like a punch of bananas to your face. I've used other flavors like mango or vanilla, but hey, it's banana bread.
Go banana!
And finally, tip number 3. Most recipes call for butter, and for good reason. Butter is dang delicious. But it's been said that baking with oil will help make you make a more tender and moist cake. OG food science superwoman Shirley Corer of Cookwise put it simply by saying oil coats flour proteins well and prevents them from absorbing liquid from the batter to make gluten. When you want to make cake or muffins really moist, think of oil. Throughout her book, she talks quite a bit about how oil is 100% fat and butter is 80% fat and 20% water. Baked goods baked with oil will generally be more moist and have a softer texture. However, the lack of water and oil may make the finished product less flavorful, so she advocates using both for the best results. You get the best of both worlds. Take the amount of butter and use half butter and half coconut oil or olive oil. Olive oil cakes are the best. This way, you get the unctuousness of butter with the added properties of using oil, which is the increased moistness. I actually got one more tip for you, but hey, let's put this all together and make some banana bread. Start off by preheating your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's take one more look at the recipe on the package. It calls for 1/2 stick of butter or 113 grams. So let's microwave 55 grams of butter or 1/4 stick and 55 grams of coconut oil. Peel your super ripe or frozen bananas. I happen to be using frozen because I usually buy too many bananas, but I'll just have them sit in a little bit of hot water and let them defrost. So 1, 2, 3, 4 bananas. And you can strain any excess liquid if you want. Side note, I like to put these peels in a jar full of water, wait a few days, and then use the potassium-enriched water for my garden. In a large bowl, mash up the 4 bananas. Add the melted oil and butter mixture. You want to make sure that it's cooled down a bit before you add the eggs. Okay, so add 1 cup or 200 grams of sugar, 2 eggs, and 1/3 cup or 80 grams of full fat banana yogurt. You can go up to 1/2 cup if you want, but I like to have that last spoonful for myself. In a separate bowl, add 2 cups or 240 grams of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I like to add a touch of cinnamon because I'm fancy like that, and you can add nutmeg, vanilla, or powdered ginger. I'm gonna add a bit of nutmeg because I got so many nutmegs. Add the dry to the wet ingredients and stir it all together until incorporated. Just don't overmix it. It's okay to have some flour streaks, it'll hydrate when baking. Before we pour it into the pan, I like to spray it with baker's spray. I just stopped using butter and oil. This works like magic. pops right out when you're done. Now, pour the batter into the pan, and here's my final tip. Add them to a metal loaf pan. The metal conducts heat better and more evenly. Just avoid glass pans for baking loaves and cakes. They don't conduct heat as well, and you'll end up having to adjust the cook time. I end up adding walnuts at the end because my wife loves them in banana bread, but if I put them in the bowl, they all end up sinking to the bottom, but maybe that's just my luck. You can save time by adding them to the bowl if you want. Plus, if you want to add a half a banana on top like I did with this one I made to make it look pretty, just do it halfway through your bake time. And speaking of bake times, the bake time is typically between 50 and 60 minutes, and I typically go for 60 minutes and then shut off the oven and then let it sit for anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes more. Sometimes I leave the oven door open a bit. This will just let it firm up, and it's more likely when you poke it, you'll get a mostly clean toothpick or knife. With all those added ingredients, the extra banana, the yogurt, the oil, your banana bread won't be drying out anytime soon. Remember, add an extra banana for 4, 1/3 to a half a cup of full fat flavored yogurt, and then use half butter, half oil combination for the best of both worlds. What you get is a moist, full flavored banana bread no matter what recipe you choose, even one on the back of a flour package. Oh, and I got one more tip, but now for a taste test.
I love this part of the video where I get to eat it. Super moist, super flavorful, full of banana, nice walnut crunch. Really happy how this turns out, and you will too.
So one last thing about baking loaf pans. I learned this from Benjamin the Baker. There's a difference between light and dark pans and how they affect your bake. So if you find that your dark pan is crisping up the edges, you can always reduce the temperature you're baking it at, which I really don't like messing around with, or just line the outside of your dark pan with aluminum foil, and the heat will reflect it as if it were a lighter pan. I thought that was worth sharing. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, it's so moist. Sorry, that's a lot of, I'm saying that word a lot.